to another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No fucking play is that a gimme, right?
Let's go! Ever going to have, ladies and gentlemen, because, oh my goodness, the University of Florida getting it done for the Anik boys last night. The construction on the mansion has already begun. Thank you, Hard Rock, Florida, who's given my boys a hard time down there in Florida to be able to make their wagers. Florida cashes the ticket last night. Jason Anik, you have a grin from sea to shining sea this morning.
Oh, I love that you prefaced it with the Hard Rock bet stuff. Well done, because they have been hosing me, blocking me out.
Yeah.
But yeah, my brother John Anik, we did share a womb together, but we do not share a bank account, unfortunately, on many levels, right? Yeah, he smacked Florida 30-1 beginning of the tournament. Had some little hedges in there that hit as well with Houston plus a few points. But, we talked about Florida as this has gone on, and we'll get into the tournament more. But from John's standpoint, right, to smack Florida at 30-1, better to be lucky than good. He had a hard time watching the game last night. I have some thoughts on the game, but did you watch the full game last night, Greg?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I ate up this Final Four because while everybody was on the wambulance of we didn't get upsets and stuff like that, what we got was a historic Final Four that had only happened once before. So, yeah, I was all about it.
Yeah, me too. And, the tension last night, if we just focus on last night's game, was definitely palpable. Like, all these guys look tight, right? All these guys on both sides a little bit throwing up all over themselves. You get these coaches' interviews. Oftentimes they say, guys are a little bit tight. Kelvin Sampson was saying they'll sort of settle down. But Alex Condon on Florida early on, like literally was so sped up, like the opposite of the game slowing down. So I was sort of laughing at that. Walter Clayton Jr. certainly neutralized. But on the Houston side, right, as the game went along offensively, I found myself wondering, like, how many of these guys are actually pros? How many of these guys are really going to play at the next level? Because they're really limited offensively. But Al Horford was in the building for the Florida Gators. Jim Nance, who's not broadcasting college basketball anymore, I went out and told us he's going to do the Masters through 2036. Thanks. We'll make a note for 10, 11 years from now, Jim. But anyway, a lot of people in the building for Houston, for Florida, but the Gators hoist it. It was a lot of fun to watch. John was closing his eyes most of the night though.
And I could completely understand that. It's interesting. I'm just trying to do the math in my head on Nance. Like, why would he work until 2036? Oh, it might have been like a kid with the new wife that forces you to then work until you're 75 years old to make sure that they can go to what did Kelvin Sampson roll out last night? Sasquatch State, which absolutely got all over me in that interview with Tracy Wolfson.
I love it. And so in terms of the coaches, right, obviously Todd Golden, the other side, right, not even a man yet, turns 40 this July, right, 39.
Well, he's got a real baby face too.
He does. And I will say he looked very poised despite a really rough first half, almost plus for Florida. But Kelvin Sampson, right, turned 70 this fall. And I don't know if you were aware of his contract, right? But they have in place, which is pretty rare, for his son, Kellen Sampson. You know this, I can tell, right? Would have been, had Kelvin won this trophy, I think he maybe retires. And his son, for a contract that's part of Kelvin's contract, his son Kellen would make $2 million a year for the next 3 years to be the head coach. And he has an option to hire Pops as a consultant for $300K a year as well. So that sort of looked like that was very much going to happen at halftime. But then Houston just sort of got really tight, missed a bunch of shots, and it was a disaster.
Well, it's a family affair in Houston because I do believe Kelvin Sampson's daughter essentially serves the role of like the general manager of the team, like, involved in recruiting and stuff. Well, when Kelvin got there, they had no program. So he was like, I need people I can count on. And yeah, it's nepotism out the waz, but it's the people that he could count on. And look, they're in a national championship game. They're playing for Final Fours. Jay, it is interesting that you mentioned how many guys on Houston would be pros, because this is now where NIL is kind of taking us, right? Like, you can be like Duke and go get the super freshman and have Cooper Flagg, but what are you putting around him? And I think with Kelvin Sampson, it was kind of the Rick Pitino theory. I don't know if you heard Pitino talking about the transfer portal, but he was like, you don't win with college freshmen anymore, even if you get the top 5. So you got to have older players to mix in. And I think, Jay, there's just going to be some programs who are going to say, to hell with it. I don't care if I ever get Cooper Flag, but if I have a bunch of juniors, seniors, and grad students who are hanging around who know how to play the game, I think that's more of the way that Houston was trying to win it than it is with going out and getting like the super freshman and paying whatever, ungodly amount of money it is now through the nose to try to get a young kid to actually show up on campus and be invested other than just take the money. I'll tell you this. There was a comment, Jay, at the beginning of the basketball season from the athletic director at Providence College, a guy, Steve Napolillo, where he was talking about, we need everybody to be in. And what he meant by that was all these kids now, it's like, I got to go to the big car dealership to go meet, the guy who spent $100,000 on a practice facility or something. And they're like, what do I get out of it? It's like, you got a nice practice facility, shut the hell up. So now the administrators have to push back on these kids who think that, I got to go to the dining hall for something. I should get a check while I get my food as well. It's getting ridiculous out there.
Wow. It's unbelievable. And when you talk about the upperclassmen, right? I know we're old guys, but that's back when college basketball was great. And I hate to say it, last night, not a great basketball game. I think Duke would have washed both of those teams. They threw up all over themselves to not put themselves in this game. But it really is interesting, right? I'd love to see it it's ironic that you talk about these teams, whether Pitino or Sampson, doing the old school thing in this era of NIL. But again, I've said it before on this show, it makes me glad to be a fan of professional sports, if I'm being honest. But this Houston program, they've been great. Second Final Four in the last 5 years, man. It's tough. You think about the other side of it. But Clayton, the look on Walter Clayton Jr.'s face of, I can't believe we won this thing, given how much of a shit show it was early on. Really happy for him. Be interested to see what his NBA future will be after his sort of tournament and that game last night too.
Well, I think something to remember is that if you go into the NBA and you're not a first round pick, if you decide to jump and you're in the second round, it's a non-guaranteed contract and you're making less than you would being at a major institution now where you can listen, do you want to go try to grind in the NBA as a second round pick and make $500,000? Or do you want to make $500,000 playing half the games for Arkansas, and you might be the 8th guy on the bench or whatever in the world it is, but you're going to end up getting your money. I thought the Final Four was great. I thought the Final Four made up for whatever upsets we didn't get along the way during the tournament. And now it is the real Wild West out in the world of college basketball. It's interesting. I did a Final Four show on Sunday on ESPN Radio. And one of the people that we had on was Jim Boeheim, an old Boheim. I asked him about Pitino's comments of the, going, and he was like, you got to take what Rick Pitino says with a grain of salt. And then he added, but I do think he is on the right track. So let's see how old college basketball gets. And Jay, you said, you're glad you follow pro sports. Well, that's kind of where we're at now, unfortunately, with college football and college basketball.
Good point.
We're about as close to pro sports as we can possibly get. And oh my God, brother, I went nuts last week on this whole Colorado Pro Day as we talk about college and pro athletes and stuff like that. And now I'm lower than the rent on a burning building right now because I'm bummed that it looks like Travis Hunter will not fall to the New England Patriots at number 4. And Jay, it's crazy. It took a pro day where the whole Cleveland contingent went out there. Most of the Giants contingent went out to Boulder, Colorado. It only took that workout to throw the top of the draft into turmoil. And now even the odds have shifted as well in terms of who can end up going to Cleveland. Sadly, buddy, it looks like our guy Travis Hunter might not fall to number 4 after all.
No. No. And 9-1 or whatever it is. So Ward, Hunter, Carter, right? Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul, Carter. Let's talk about the number 3. I think Travis Hunter goes 2 to Cleveland. If we want, last week we were talking about Shadeur Sanders, number 2. Find me someone who is smart in college football that thinks he's going 2 or 3. So let's start there. Do you
No,
see
I
any
mean,
chance Shadeur Sanders goes 2 or 3 at this point?
I mean, there is the chance he could go to the Giants because they do need the quarterback, and who knows how involved the owner is. But right now, it would feel like it might be somebody trying to trade up, but the trade up would be the number 5 to Jacksonville because
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And let me just get in here in terms of Shadeur Sanders, right? I'm starting to believe more and more that what the Giants did by bringing in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson was not to have a double mentor for Shadeur Sanders. It was really to craft the quarterback position for this season. You know, the more Shadeur Sanders keeps falling down boards continuously for me. So to me, I think Travis Hunter for Cleveland right now. And gosh, I think about Myles Garrett. It's like, yeah, don't you want Travis Hunter? They're not taking Abdul Carter with the number 2 pick. I think Travis Hunter to me feels like as much of a sure thing as Cam Ward at 1, and he may only be minus 270. Yeah, there it is.
Well, when you look at Cleveland, they have to decide what they really want to be. Do they want somebody on the back end or somebody that can come in and play offense? Or do you take Travis Hunter as a corner and say, hey, with an elite corner and a great pass rusher, now I make my pass rusher better? Or do you go Abdul Carter if you're Cleveland and then just say, well, to hell with it. If Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh, I got 3 quarterbacks I got to go against. I know one is loaded with wide receivers in Cincinnati. So do I choose to get after the quarterback or do I choose to cover him on the back end? It's almost like a can't lose situation for Cleveland, whomever they take defensively there.
If you had the number 1 overall pick, and let's pretend your roster needed everything, right?
Yeah.
Or forget quarterback. You didn't need a QB, but everything else you needed. I know, Gresh, that you would take Travis Hunter over Abdul Carter. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. So you and I have had Hunter on a pedestal, and I feel as though with the Cleveland Browns, whatever their future does hold, and I don't think it's Deshaun Watson. It comes back to something I brought up a couple programs ago. If you, and I've fluctuated on this point, yep. But if you do not love Shadeur Sanders, if you do not believe in him at that spot, you can't just sort of get aggressive and, he's a quarterback, I got to take him. I think last week I sort of was drinking the Kool-Aid. Oh, Deion's kid, you got to just take a shot because he's a quarterback. I think it's crystallized where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there's a reason why the odds are what they are. And I think it comes down back to what I asked you earlier. What do you see the Giants doing at 3? I see them taking Abdul Carter.
Well, I'm really torn on this because if I'm the Raiders at number 6, do I feel like I got to jump to number 3 to get Shadeur Sanders, or do you just let the Giants make the decision for you, knowing that you're insulated with Geno Smith, who they just turned around and kind of paid a lot of money to?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think some of those teams, whether you think the Jets have interest in Shadeur, right? I think some of those teams may if I'm the Jets, I pull the trigger there perhaps. But there are a lot of good potential players that can improve your roster. So for me, I just think ultimately the Patriots are not going to have access to Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. And I think a lot of people are talking about this kid back to Will Campbell. So let me ask you a question about Will Campbell.
Please.
He is minus 125 to be the first offensive lineman taken. Armand Membu is minus 105. Oh, this move since I prepped the show. Gresh, I have placed several bets on Will Campbell minus 125 to be the first offensive lineman taken. What am I missing?
I think it's just the volatility of the market, quite honestly, because I don't think you have a lot of people that are out there that are following the draft and follow college football who would jump up on the table and say, Armand Membu is better than Will Campbell. You must take him. I think both of these guys are worthy of being top 10 picks. It's just which one is going to creep into the top 5. Now, I have heard that there is not a split in the Patriots building, but I think Vrabel and crew clearly have their lean. And I think Membu, because of the measurables, there are some people in the building who would maybe argue for him. But when it's all said and done,
Elliot Wolf, go sit in the chair in the corner. Mike Vrabel's making the decision. He loves Will Campbell. We're going to talk about short arms. Probably not going to talk.
Hey,
what do you think? You're a former lineman.
No, in all seriousness, I think it depends on which scout from which side of the street is handling these O-linemen. Meaning, if it's a Vrabel guy, then they know what Mike's going to want. If it's somebody else who says, wow, look at these measurables, look at the difference, let's get in the room and get bloody and have the discussion. If it's somebody from the Belichick or Elliott pass, let's call it, or maybe even Matt Groh. I think they put Matt Groh on on Travis Hunter, if I'm not mistaken. Like, I think that was kind of his guy to evaluate defensively and offensively. But I still come back to Will Campbell, Jay, and whether the Patriots slide down a couple of picks or not, I still think they like Campbell. They're not worried as much about it. Here's the dirty little secret. Your arm length does matter to a point, but if you strike and have good hands, then it doesn't become as big a deal. And if you look at Will Campbell, Jay, there would always be the thing that we were taught, and this is 30 years ago, for Christ's sakes, of steer the car. And then you better have your hands on the inside, and you're steering the player which way you want to. And to me, Campbell is still really good at that. I think there will be healthy discussions inside the building. So here's the other thing, Jay. What if at number 4, Sanders is on the board and somebody gets a little spooked or whatever, and they don't think that New England is necessarily going to trade for said quarterback, or they're going to take said quarterback. However, when you think about the possibility of a trade for somebody that, like Vegas or the Jets, who might get a little spooked, maybe you can get yourself an extra pick next year just to slide down to where you know you're going to be able to take Campbell. The real wild card in all this, Shay, quite honestly, is what's Jacksonville going to do? Because if you're New England and you slide down, are they looking at tackles as much as you are, to where you would say, I'd rather overdraft Will Campbell by a couple of spots based on rankings versus let Jacksonville take the guy we really want?
Yeah, and I think another wild card is whether or not they trade. Now, Cody, I just texted you a tweet from Savage Sports _. He's a great follow for any Patriots fans, right? But this could be what shakes up the apple. See, this to me makes a ton of sense. If I'm the Patriots, I'm thinking hard about trade. And the same Twitter handle, he pushed something out about, would you trade the 9th and the 40th pick? Would you trade the 4th pick for number 9 and number 40? Yes, every day and twice on Sunday. I think another guy said, I would trade 4 for 9 and give me 2 extra 3rd rounders, given what the value deems to be in this draft between picks 4 and 8. I see you shaking your head, right? But I believe if someone's interested in Shadeur Sanders, if I'm the Patriots, I get very aggressive here. If they want Will Campbell and he's their guy, I do think there's a pretty damn good chance he's available at 9. You're shaking your head. Go ahead.
Well, because I just don't think it matches up with the draft value chart in taking 2 third rounders. If you just
don't make that the point, though. Don't make that the point.
No.
What about trading out of 4? That was just a random third. That was back of the point.
I don't like going down to 9 because there's too much that can happen there in between, where, like the Jaguars, that's got them taking Mason Graham. I could see that. I can just as easily seeing them taking an offensive lineman. The Raiders are very much smarting on Ashton Genty, but I know that, look, straight up, Tom Brady likes Shadeur Sanders and has openly said that and has worked with the guy. So that might be, I'd feel a little more comfortable trading down to maybe 6 versus 9, because here's the thing that says the Jets are taking Tyler Warren. Tell me what position the Jets couldn't take to where they need, and that's the real wild card. Let's remember, Bill Belichick twice in a 5 or 6 year period got in front of the Jets to screw them in taking offensive linemen. So to me, O-lineman is on the radar. I know they got him taking the Penn State tight end, who's a really good prospect, but nevertheless, I don't know. I don't like sliding down that far.
I hear you.
You got to give me the assurity the player's going to be there, and then don't whiz away this pick just because you can make a fancy trade and get an extra one. You still got to make sure it matches up and is right for you, because, Jay, I think part of the discussion you and I got to have soon is, if the first round pick's going to go to a tackle, what are they then doing in the second round? Because they're high in the second round, and there's no then glaring holes if you draft a tackle.
All right. So that board that just went away, Ward, Hunter, Carter, assuming they go 1, 2, 3. Yep. I don't think you and I would have any problem with the Patriots staying at 4 and drafting Will Campbell if he's their guy.
100%.
And that's sort of the rub for me today. And this thing does fluctuate. It's fluid. My opinion changes day to day. But I believe best interview ever. Like, you need that dog leader on the offensive line, and maybe slightly overvalue offensive linemen at 4. I don't really care. Right? If you don't know for sure he's going to be there, I just think he's their guy. That's why I see a ton of value on him, -125. I'm all over that, tying that to different things. I'm so friggin' excited for this draft. I can't get enough of it. But I think the Browns, I just think it's very much crystallized this morning, I believe.
Here's what's crazy, Jay. And looking at that map right there, right? You could make an argument that if the Patriots stayed at number 4, they could take Will Campbell. They could take Ashton Genty. Not that they would, but you could make an argument that, okay, if your roster was set and you're this high, you'd bring in somebody like Genty, who's a plug-and-play player right away. Tyler Warren, a lot of people like. You can look at half of that top 5 there outside of those quarterbacks and maybe a couple of other places where the Patriots could take the guy right there and you wouldn't even think twice about it. So that's why for me, I think sitting is the way to go unless Sanders is there. If Sanders is there, then that's where you start to play on the Jets, the Raiders, people like that. But I'm just devastated. You know me, Jay, enough to know that I don't couch everything, but I'm definitely skeptical. I look at things with a crooked eye. And I allowed myself to start to get excited that maybe, just maybe, Travis Hunter was going to fall to number 4 because, look, I had a second-round trade worked out of getting back into the Minnesota.
Right.
Bro, Minnesota's a sitting duck at 24. You could offer them your second, your other third-rounder, and the pick they just got for Joe Milton. You could easily get to 24 and get your other offensive lineman if you got Hunter early. I was allowing myself to think more of that versus me trying to put together the puzzle of they take an offensive lineman. Now the roster's pretty set. What direction do they go in the second round? It's kind of anywhere, really.
Well, and what a difference a week makes. It's the first week in April. And last week, I literally don't agree with a lot of what I said. Like, I was more interested in Genty last week, not so much anymore. This kid McMillan, this receiver. Patriots certainly need wideouts. Is that something that you think they would consider if moving down a little bit?
No.
Or I don't either.
And I'll tell you why. Wrong guy for the offense. If you look at Ted McMillan, you remember when Keyshawn Johnson came out and he was the best, he was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, right? But the style of receiver Keyshawn was and is, he was an outside guy, but he was much more 15 yards towards the line of scrimmage. Like you don't see Keyshawn Johnson running down the field the way you do Randy Moss. And to me, that's the kind of player that Ted McMillan is. He has the size of somebody that you would think would be streaking down the field and throw it to him. Much more of a possession guy. I don't think this offense needs that. If anything, I mean, look at what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to find a passing back a la James White, which makes me wonder at tight end, Jay, in the second and the third round, might they go looking for a Aaron Hernandez style of tight end, to throw into this offense, and you're not putting it together the way you used to, but you're using kind of the same formula that you used to in nurturing Drake May.
I absolutely love it. And when the Patriots, in my opinion, were at their absolute very best, whether it be during the regular season, whatever, it was Gronkowski and Hernandez. Aaron Hernandez, for those of you young folks who, go watch the documentary if you want, but as a football player, unbelievable revolution. I think he would have been a Hall of Fame player had he had the off the field stuff, and rest in peace. But gosh, man, I love that. And, I can't get over Ladd McConkey going to the Chargers last year in the spot where the Patriots could have drafted him. But yeah, the guys that fit the culture. And by the way, Josh McDaniels looking almost like he's on the Dable Pilates train, looking a little slimmer, Josh.
All right. You know what? I don't know this for,
go ahead.
I don't know this for a fact, but I'll tell you, last year, Fourier and I approached Josh McDaniels of coming on our show once a week during football season. We were trying to set that up. Of course, football season got blown up for us, but Josh was like, nah, you know what? I'm just studying the game and I'm getting myself right type thing. And it was you know what it is? You actually have time is really what it is as a football coach. Like you see these guys where it's either okay, you're too fat to fit, we got to slim you down here. Or it is hey, I got let go. I got 2 years of money coming in. I can actually walk on the treadmill and like get normal sleep like a human being and stuff. So I remember Dayball did the slim down in between seasons, I think it was.
Yep.
And Matty P, one of my kids' friends was on a flight out to Columbus with Matty P, and he is wasting away. I don't
he
know
looks
what.
like a different guy.
Oh, he's a completely different human being. And, well, it's good to know that he can ruin that defense out there. So if Carter is on the board, I think it's a complex set of, maybe a more complex set of problems. That's the one thing, Jay, that you and I didn't discuss here is what if Carter is on the board at number 4?
Trigger
on it. Wait, trigger on that or trigger on a trade?
No, trigger. Pull the trigger. Abdul Carter. If he is sitting there at 4, assuming Travis Hunter is not there, best available player 4, let's go.
Boy, and then they could still trade back in and get their offensive lineman if they really want to. My gut tells me they will not take Carter. But if Carter's
I don't think he's going to be on the board. You don't think they take him if he's there?
I think there might be a juicier trade for them.
I agree.
than it is for them to take. If they didn't build this defense the way and I'm dead ass, if Harold Landry weren't here, I would say, oh yeah, this is the guy you put in that spot. Because I don't know if Abdul Carter, for as much as people talk about him, Jay, I don't know if he's Micah Parsons. Meaning you can put him at the second level and let him just run around and go make plays, or move him up to the first level, let him run around and make plays. I don't know if Carter is necessarily that type of guy, but I just think with the way the defense has been built and the needs of the team, I could totally see, oh, Carolina, you're really horny for this guy? Oh, this is great. They got a stupid owner. He'll give us everything. And then you make a trade and we're all sitting there going, oh my God, I can't believe they got that because some dopey owner wanted to give you 2 firsts for Abdul Carter.
I am going to be so captivated on this night. What is it? The 24th, Thursday, the 24th. Is that right?
Yes. In fact, I'll be on ESPN radio after the first round of this draft, breaking it all down and everything, which would be pretty cool. But
after the first round.
After the first round. That's right. I'll be on until 2 a.m. Eastern time on many of the ESPN radio stations.
I love it. That's great. That's wheelhouse for you.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Jay, let me ask you this, because I always, every year, I'll look at the beginning of the draft and I'll say, where does the draft begin? For you, where does the draft really begin? Is it 3, 4?
It begins at 4. And I wouldn't have answered that way. I would say it begins at 2 last week. And I think now it begins at 4. If I was in Vegas right now, I would play it like horses, the exacta, and when I say if I was in Vegas right now, it's because down here in Florida, my options are limited. But I think it's Ward, Hunter, Carter, 1, 2, 3, every day of the week. And twice on Sunday. So I think it starts at 4.
Oh, and then it gets juicy, baby, which it absolutely will. By the way, in terms of the Patriots, I looked at this last night. And by the way, I think because I'm in Mass and Cody is in New Hampshire, I think he gets a different set of bets than I do. I know it's state by state. Like you know what? In Rhode Island, you can't even bet on the NFL draft. There are a tiny bit of bets you can make. But because it's selectable and, all of the whatever funny business, yada, yada, yada. But I know that for the Patriots, first player drafted, corner is down to plus 850. So clearly the betting markets have jumped on, who New England would be taking. Yeah, there it is right there. Like offensive lineman's now minus 150. It's devastating to see. It really is. Because I really wanted Travis Hunter. But now the lines are starting to move around a little bit, Jay. And I would say, first of all, you're a smart man, but you're really smart when it comes to betting the draft, because locking in early is good because you're going to have to react late to be able to hedge yourself.
No question about it. I think I played McMillan minus 200 to be the first wide receiver taken, not named Travis Hunter. I haven't seen a lot of other names. So at minus 200 is what it is. Fascinating for me. But I will say I love every single thing I've seen and heard on Will Campbell. So for me, it just kind of is what it is. I feel as though in a certain way, it might end up being a blessing that it shakes out the way it does. I feel as though it's the same point I made where I feel like they couldn't have gone wrong with the coach, whether it's Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. I'm glad it's Vrabel. I feel like in free agency, they almost couldn't mess up. They exceeded my expectations. I feel like it's going to be hard to mess this draft up, at least this 4th pick, whether you trade out of it or draft Campbell or someone else.
I would agree. And look, let's just cap the Campbell talk with this. He's a nasty motherfucker. And
yeah, man.
There we go. That's what they need up front. Would you like to take 30 seconds in mourning for Joe Milton, who is now a Dallas Cowboy?
I like him. I'm excited for him. It'll be, he's obviously not going to a situation where he's going to have an opportunity to play unless Dak gets hurt. But no, I'm glad they moved. It is what it is. I don't think he was going to fit here, but I'm rooting for him.
I love the pick they got because it fits right into a second round trade, like so choice perfectly to fit into a trade if you want to get back into the second round. Look at something that they had to do. And now we're hearing the stuff on the, Joe Milton should have carried himself as a starter. He should think of himself as a starter. Guess what? Guess who else did that? Tom Brady. He was just a little more quiet about it, maybe, or his personality was different. But, I hate this that people are crapping all over Milton on the way out the door because he wanted to play and carried himself a certain way. Well, it goes to show how dopey the coach was, how there was little leadership in the locker room. I think it was more about the environment with Milton than actually Milton walking around thinking he's the cock of the walk.
I agree. And I was one of those guys that's even was high on Malik Cunningham. I think the kid out of Louisville from a couple years ago, they traded to Baltimore and he's a backup now. So it is what it is. If he went to a place and I was just hoping that he would go to a place where he'd have a chance to compete for the job, like even go to a place like Cleveland, perhaps, where he might be able to have to get some reps. So because I actually do believe in him. And what if he was part of the Bailey Zappi, Mac Jones Patriots quarterback era instead of behind Drake May?
That would have been really interesting because of his ability to run. And would they have not split reps, but say used Milton as a red zone goal line guy?
And I think the big variable in all the Patriots excitement, and I say it every week, is Drake May. What are you going to bring in year two? Are you in Foxborough? Where are you now? How are you working? I can tell you, welterweight champion of the world, Bilal Muhammad, is working his fucking ass off all day, Drake, to try to become champion in 4+ weeks time. So I hope Drake May's working because I think there are going to be a lot of guys leveled up and he better level up too.
If Drake has the work ethic of Bilal, we'll be just fine.
Bingo.
Because that guy is a freaking animal. Speaking of animals, I know we got some Masters to get to. Let's just touch on the Celtics real quick, Jay, because I know that it's 4 games left in the regular season. They're poised to be the number 2 seed in the East. Right now, Celtics to win the championship are plus 215. My God, I love that number. And they're minus 130 to win the East. Thank you, Cleveland, for remaining a good basketball team so we can get us a nice skinny number on the Celtics to go win the East. Don't know if you've seen what the Joker is doing. Nikola Jokic is basically averaging a triple-double for the last 2 weeks, like a real triple-double. It's wild. He's plus 1,000 for the MVP. I do wonder if there is a little bit of something there. But man, oh man, and I know that you and I have mentioned this before, but the difference Kristaps Porzingis makes in this Celtics team is so massive. I don't think we can even put words to it. When that guy's out there, they have the best group of 7 or 8 in all of basketball. And I think, Jay, it's just a matter of time before we see Joe Mazzulla and this crew really crank up the intensity here. They're going to smoke somebody in the first round, waiting for either what could be, the Knicks or Indiana or something like that.
Don't give me the Heat. Don't give me the Heat.
No. It ain't going to be the Heat. No. It ain't going to be the Heat.
Well, they're going to be in the play-in, so they got a shot. But
aren't they? But are
so yeah.
I was going to say they're the 10, so I think they would be forced to go through Cleveland first.
So you're making me nervous talking about the Celtics because I'm getting excited, right? But what I'll say from a gambling standpoint, this will be one of those spots where it's full on happiness hedge for me and my brother John, right? Full on betting Cleveland, betting against the Celtics, paying for the back-to-back title. We'll be paying for it. But I'm really excited. They play the Knicks tonight. I think maybe the Knicks have a chance to lock up the 3. I think the Knicks have already locked. Not much at stake tonight. But Gresh, so in terms of the NBA, right? The Western Conference, to me, like the Eastern Conference, basically, we know where everyone's going to be seated. I know the play-in tournament is what it is, but the Western Conference couldn't be more compelling for me right now. OKC, in the same way that SGA has been sort of anointed the MVP, and frankly, he's probably going to get it based on this is one of the best regular seasons we've ever seen out of a team. So But a lot of people don't like OKC to emerge from this conference. I know Jamal Murray may not, he's banged up, so that Nuggets is a fly in the ointment there. But whether it's Lakers, Warriors, let's just speak of these Western Conference odds. If I had to ask you today, April 8th, who you got in the West?
I like the way the Nuggets are rounding into shape. And real quick, the Rockets, number 2 seed, they have flown up the charts. You and I are Ime Udoka fans. I do think, though, his team is young, and at some point they get popped. When you look at the Thunder, right? Here's the thing, Jay. They could end up playing the Grizzlies as an 8 seed. So they would welcome in Ja Morant and a team that at one point in time, before they had all the, whatever with their coach, they were a top 3 seed in the West at one point. Then the Thunder would have to deal with the winner of Nuggets Clippers. So you're either going to get Ja, or depending on how it breaks, the Thunder could end up getting, depending on how the records go, they can end up getting Ant-Man and the T-Wolves in the first round, which they'll beat them, but it won't be fun. And then on the bottom half of the bracket, you have either the Lakers or the Warriors kind of waiting for you if you get to a West final. I think it's a gauntlet. First, think about it. The Celtics are going to get, the Celtics might get Chicago. The Thunder might get the Grizzlies or the Timberwolves in the first round.
Fascinating. Great stuff there. And I will say, when you look at last season, right, I believe they went 16-3 in the postseason last season. I'm glad these Western Conference teams are going to beat themselves up and beat each other up. And the Celtics will, if they're fortunate enough to make it through the Eastern Conference, only going to have to face one of these teams, right? I always say, as a Patriots fan in the AFC, I'll worry about whoever the NFC representative is when we get there. And so I think for the Celtics, handling their business early is very crucial, especially when you talk about a guy like Porzingis. Frankly, the more time he can spend on the bench until you get to those latter rounds, the better. I'm not passing them through the first round lightly in any way, shape, or form, but you can be sure if that second round matchup is against the New York Knicks, the Knicks will find a way to give them everything they can handle in some capacity. Don't you think that series maybe goes 6-7 games? I
don't think it goes 7. I would say it goes 6. Let's remember the Celtics are undefeated against the Knicks this year.
Good point.
And I think there was only one game where they had Porzingis. So that might have been the one where they won by 20. The Knicks are the team who tried to build themselves specifically to beat the Celtics. And unless there is some sort of upset or something like that, it looks like it is going to be Boston and New York. But I'll tell you, Jay, what else is potentially looming for Cleveland? That might be a second round battle against Milwaukee, who is playing a better brand of basketball. And for those who haven't looked, the second leading scorer in the NBA is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he himself is approaching Jokic-like numbers in terms of like 8.5 rebounds and 6, assists per game. He's not a triple-double, but think about Cleveland. They'll have a first-round walk the way the Celtics will, but who would you rather deal with? A team with championship credibility and an all-world player in Giannis, or the Knicks that are kind of built to be gritty, gutty, and have a nice player in Brunson, but he ain't no Giannis?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the Celtics should handle both of those teams at this stage, period. End of story. So whoever you get it. What's up?
But will Cleveland? Can Cleveland beat Milwaukee in the second round?
Right. That's a great question. I think Cleveland handles the Knicks. I think Cleveland-Milwaukee would be very compelling.
I do too. And I know that we're going to zip through some stuff here. We have some Celtics things that we can maybe circle back and get to, like the rumored or the deal that was thrown out for Kevin Durant. I don't know if we'd be able to circle back on that, but thank God they didn't get that guy.
Yeah.
Softer than puppy poop. Just not anybody I want around my team. The Red Sox lost to Toronto yesterday, but Jay, they've turned things around. They had a great weekend. Disastrous start. Devers is finally swinging the bat a little bit and making contact with the ball. But they're now 6-5 on the year, which is no great shakes. But man, what a difference a week makes, right? Or really, what a difference a weekend makes for the Boston Red Sox and the way the fans would be feeling about this team.
Oh, I must-see TV. I can't get enough. It's going to be so fun to follow this team. You like the Wally head when you hit a home run? It's just fascinating. I love watching this team play. Alex Bregman changes everything, leading the league in hits. I know it's a small sample size, but he changes everything. And Devers, I hate to say it, I think he's going to get used to that DH role pretty quickly and be pretty happy. Love to see him at first base at some point, but Christian Campbell, I mean, they're so good offensively. They could end up emerging as one of the absolute best teams in baseball. You got the ace in Crochet. And Aroldis Chapman, whether he ends up locking down the closer spot or not, he looks like he's in great shape. And being in great physical condition in all sports, I think, is an underrated thing, even in a sport like baseball. I know some of these guys, look, being in shape for your particular sport makes sense. But Aroldis Chapman, who has sometimes been a little thick in the midsection, looks really healthy. And at 37 years old, if you're in great physical condition, you can do a lot with your body.
Well, and, like David Wells could look like me, be half drunk and throw a perfect game. That's not everybody, to your point.
Right.
There are not a lot of...
is shredded now. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But even as he got later in his career, CC trimmed down the weight a little bit. And I think for Chapman, honestly, Jay, I'll take whatever he can give. My expectations are kind of low for him anyway. It's almost like if you turn into the de facto closer and you find what you were 8 years ago, great. I'll take it and run. If they don't get a lot out of the guy, I understand that he's 37 and could be baked and might have been on roids out his ass 10 years ago and we'd have no idea about it. But I'm with you. Like, even if he's, and Jay, even if he's Dominican 37, if you know what I mean, right? Or Cuban 37, whatever it is. Right. I don't care. Fill yourself up with whatever you need to and keep throwing the ball the way you have. And you mentioned the Christian Campbell, 8 years, $60 million. There's a pro and a con to this. The pro is you have locked up the player for a long period of time, and it is not an exorbitant amount of money. However, if this is the way the Red Sox look at quote unquote spending, and that it's, we got these young guys, we'll just go lock them up. People will think we're spending money, but in reality, what we're doing is we're holding ourselves under that luxury tax because we're giving these deals out to players who one could argue maybe even haven't quite earned them just yet. So is it, you're going to be in business with Bregman, but it's just going to be a series of one-year deals and you're going to try to sign all the young guys? Or are you serious about balancing the roster and maybe actually take that contract for Bregman, make it a real contract? Because you're paying Christian Campbell $1.295 for the next 5 years.
I think Theo Epstein is in the room, right? And so it's in my opinion, I don't know what his role is exactly, but I think he's in the room and I think it all makes great sense. Wouldn't be surprised if this contract gets ripped up at some point to extend him long-term, but I like it anytime they sign a guy long-term rather than don't. I'm still a Boston fan. I like guys that want to be here. So give me all of that. And it's interesting. I saw an interview with him yesterday and he was talking about, he was giving the Red Sox organization a lot of credit for his development. And that's a factor too, right? A lot of people in the building that he probably has real relationships with that have helped a lot of things click for him earlier than most. And Cody had up Abreu for the MVP, right? That kid's 25 as well. So it's going to be fun to watch this team compete. Alex Cora seems excited. They did lose. Wong got injured yesterday, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, he busted a finger, I think it was. This is where you would have loved to bring up Kyle Teal. Of course, he got traded away, I do believe. So, hey, it is what it is. And look, the Red Sox got back to par. And they also showed us that offensively, if they can just be good on the road, but great at home, they're going to win a lot of games.
No question about it. And it's April 8th, so we're not going to spend too much time on baseball because the clock is flying. April 8th, the Masters. We got to talk about the Masters. Gresh, you're a golfer. How good are you at golf, by the way?
Well, those documents are sealed. I would normally shoot in the low 80s, but when I play with people, I'm a high. But when I play with people, I'm a high 90s. I'm an 18 handicap, Jay. I'm like a college football coach. You ever play golf with a college football coach? They never. The only time they allegedly lie is when they tell you they're handicapped. But nevertheless, no. I love the Masters. I love the par 3 tournament, which will be tomorrow, because it kind of greases the skids a little bit. But we have no Tiger for the first time since 2021. So for some people, it'll be, Tiger's not in there. There is so much more to watch on this Masters this year. All these live guys coming over. Oh, it's going to be fantastic.
All right, so no tournament like this for me, and I like golf. I like betting on golf. I like playing golf, but I don't got time to play it, so I'm betting on it, right? So leave these up, Cody. I'm just going to take you through a couple of my wagers, Gresh, and we'll see what the odds are relative to what I played, right? So I just love this tournament so much. It's a UFC pay-per-view weekend, and it's in Miami, and my brother John is like, hey, when you coming down? I'm like, I don't know when I'm coming down. I'll be watching the fucking Masters. All right. So I eliminated the two favorites. Scheffler, 4-1. If he wins this, that's 3 out of 4 Masters. Hats off. But I don't like the value at 4-1. You can maybe get it. If he makes a bogey early, that you could increase, right? And I didn't play Rory, even though I really love Rory here. But 650 plus 650, I just doesn't do enough for me as a pre-tournament odd. So I wiped those two off, right? So I played Jon Rahm at 16-1, and he really has disappeared on the Live Tour, has he not? Right? I mean, you just don't, but he won the Masters in 2023, the 1 year Scheffler didn't win it. So played him 16-1. I played Justin Thomas at 20-1. I don't know what he's at right now, 25-1. So I played him at 20-1. I played that for your son. Okay.
Dude, I was going to say I'm on Justin Thomas in part because of that. And for those who watch Gas or don't know the story, my oldest is a caddy in Florida. He was out one night in Jupiter, just hanging out, looks around.
One night.
There's just, that is very true. Every night. But he runs into Justin Thomas. My kid went to Alabama for a year, so they were able to strike up a conversation. Justin Thomas looks at my kid at the end of the night and says, and I quote, "My Masters odds are going to be shit. I'm a great value." Boom, and we're all over it.
I love it. And I see it at 25-1. I'll check back with Shit Rock Bet down here, see what the odds are. All right. My third play, Tony Finau, 60-1 right? We'll see where that is here, right? So
he's
Tony
great for the Masters.
He had some success in this tournament, but it's been, he was top 10 in 2018, 2019, and 2021. Hasn't been great the last couple of years, but 60-1, I like that value. Will Zalatoris, 40-1. He'll be playing in his 5th Masters. I just envision him winning this tournament at some point. So in his 4 previous Masters, here are his finishes for Will Zalatoris: 2nd, 6th, 9th, and 9th. So 40-1, I like the juice there. 65-1, that's really interesting, right? And I'll tell you right now, if you think I'm giving you out poor odds at Hard Rock Bet, okay?
Right.
Because that's where I'm playing. So, but either way, if Zalatoris wins at 40-1, I'm not complaining. Colin Morikawa, 14-1. I like him a lot. Last 3 years at the Masters, finished 5th, 10th, and 3rd. He's improved his putting. Nobody strikes the ball like him. So you see 18-1 there at 14-1 for me. And this guy, maybe my favorite golfer on tour, Ludwig Aberg. I hope I pronounce it right. I shouldn't call him my favorite golfer without knowing the pronunciation of his name. But Aberg, 16-1. He was the runner-up last year to Scottie Scheffler. That was his rookie season. Ranked 5th in the world, already won this year on tour at the Genesis Invitational. That was back in February. But for Ludwig, right, there was this one, I don't know if it was last year, the Masters. I think it was.
It was in 2024, yeah.
Right, no, but when I say I don't know if it was last year, I'm saying what I'm about to tell you a story. He had he pulled, no, that you're okay, but he pulled a protein bar out of his bag. I think it was at the Masters. There were a lot of eyeballs on him, right? So he pulls a protein bar out of his bag. He takes a bite of the protein bar and he's going in this line of fans, giving them the fist with the bar in his hand. And someone knocks the bar out of his hand and it falls on the floor. And he has this beautiful moment where he's like, and he looks at the ground. He's like, I'm not going to pick it up. And it was, the camera captured the whole moment. He smiled at the fan. And I know that may sound silly, but it was a really interesting moment to sort of let him in. It let me know that he was in a good mental space because he was able to sort of have that light moment. And I do believe in the mental game a lot. When some of these young guys come up, they're almost young to the point where they're not even phased, right? No pressure. They don't even know better than not to be phased. The opposite of the guys in the tournament last night, college basketball. But I love Aberg. That is my final selection in the Masters. Talk to me, Gresh.
Well, Elberg, I do believe it is
22-1 there.
After the first round last year, he was tied for 35th and then worked his way to 7th, 4th, and then 2nd. Now, the issue with old Ludwig is the career in the majors, right? So 2024 British, he got cut. In the U.S. Open, he tied for 12th. In the PGA, he missed the cut. And then in the Masters, he finished 2nd. So hopefully we're getting the good Ludwig in this moment. But, brother, you mentioned the guy that I'm all over, and that is Colin Morikawa, because there's a couple of things that Morikawa does that fit the Masters really well, right? One is The guy hits fairways. So, like, I would love to take Brooks. I'm not Brooks Koepka, but I would love to take Bryson DeChambeau in a Masters. But it's not about the power game on every hole. With the Masters, you have to have precision. You have to putt. You have to be great chipping. You can't hit your way into trouble. And this is the one that really gets me. So, Jay, whatever the elements are, whether it's the course, whether it's the wind, whatever it is, most rounds, multiple shots under par in the Masters since 2020. The leader is Colin Morikawa with 10. He made his Masters debut in 2020. That's what's amazing about that stat is guys like Cam Smith and Patrick Reed, they had a different level of experience. Morikawa shows up, and when you look at fairways and greens, the hit leaders over the since 2020, guess who leads the way in fairways? Colin Morikawa. Guess who's second in greens? Colin Morikawa behind Scotty Scheffler. He has the game to win the Masters consistently because he may not hit it super long, but you know where it's going to go, and the guy can putt. That, to me, is how you win the Masters. That's why I love Morikawa. What is that, +8? My old eyes are deceiving
I like
me.
it, +1,800. I mean, down here, the odds are just not as good. But we'll see what happens. I like that a lot. I may go a little heavier there. I just think McIlroy might be upsetting the apple cart. Has never won the green jacket, unless I'm mistaken. I think could be time. So I don't know. I'm excited for this, though.
Can I give you a Rory nugget quickly? This will be his 11th attempt at the career Grand Slam.
That's right.
The 11th career attempt and by the way, only 5 players have won the career Grand Slam. None of them needed more than 3 attempts to be able to get it done, though. So that's Tiger and people like that kind of skewing it a little bit. So I'm digging, man. Now, how do you consume the Masters? Like, I'm curious because I know you have UFC this weekend, but like, if you were unfettered, right? If you could just pick what you wanted, are you a final round guy? Are you an early round guy? How do you go about watching the Masters?
This particular tournament, I watch every minute I can. And as I look at my schedule on Thursday, other than a haircut at 1:45 with Gianni, going to tighten up this white shit on the sides. Other than that, we'll be sort of tapped in. I think my brother would maybe like me to drive down to Miami for fighter meetings, and that's not going to happen. No, I'll be, and I have an appearance for UFC Fight Pass. I don't know where, at some bar in Miami on Friday night. So even on Friday during the day, I'll watch as much as I can. Saturday, obviously, the fights, so that'll be limited. I'm also doing that. There's a fan experience you can find me at in Miami also on Saturday for about 4 hours. So I don't think I'll watch much on Saturday, but then Saturday night, I don't care what times the fights end in Miami, I'll be driving home Sunday, and it'll almost be like an NFL Sunday where my daughters might ask me for a glass of water and I might not even hear them.
Well, there you go. I was going to say on your ride home late after UFC, if you do leave on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, PGA Tour Radio on Sirius XM will be replaying some of the Masters that they're covering. So
I thought for a sec you were going to say Andy fucking Gresh was going to be on PGA Radio because frankly, the guy never gets an hour off.
That is untrue. However, friend, that is very kind of you to say. So there's some bets on the Masters that I think are really gonna. So are you doing anything on Fight Pass? Where's Waldo this weekend exactly?
I should know where Waldo is, but in true UFC Fight Pass essence, I do not yet know the location. But I'll be there with Caio Borralho, which I'm very excited. Remember the Fighting Nerds? John said he's electric. I have not met him. And my guy TJ DeSantis hosting. Should be fun. And then Saturday, this fan experience. I don't know what it is, but it always goes very well when I pretend to be my brother John at these things.
I love those.
Maybe they'll send me around doing that, get a little content. Where people think I'm someone I am not.
I love that. It's beautiful. And how do you see now? First of all, this is so far, and I know that it could change. For me, Jay, this is the card of the year for the UFC. From
no doubt about it.
The bottom, this thing is loaded. Even the early
Absolutely
prelims are good.
Stacked. Yeah, and if I look at the fight card overall, I'll just say one fight early just to touch on. Jim Miller, Chase Hooper, right? Chase Hooper's done a lot of work for Fight Pass. I've gotten to know him well. I think he's like minus 700 or something. On the Anik and Florian podcast, both Kenny Florian and Brian Petrie, who's a handicapper, picked Jim Miller, I believe, to beat Chase Hooper. Cody can check me there, but that's interesting. Yan Xiaonan versus Virna Jandiroba. That's a fascinating fight early on. Dominic Reyes, Dan Ige. I mean, the prelims are stacked. Yair Rodriguez, Pitbull making his first UFC appearance, fascinating. I could go on and on about this fight card, okay? But let's just focus on the main event and the co-main event for a minute, because I want to ask you a question. And Cody, you can leave those odds right there. So you see co-main event, Michael Chandler, Patty, the Batty Pimblett.
Yep.
Did I say it? There we go. All right. So you see Chandler plus 124, Patty Pimblett minus 148. And then if you see the main event, Diego Lopez. Cody, if you don't mind, pull him so Gresh can see the main and the co-main at the same time. So both fights, co-main and main event, pretty close on paper, right? Volk minus 122, Diego Lopez. That fight's probably going to close to pick him. So you see the odds there.
Yeah.
So my brother had John Morgan, longtime MMA journalist, on his podcast, and he asked him, John loves saying to save a dog's life or whatever it is. If you have to pick one fighter in the main or co-main event to save a dog's life, who do you go with? Chandler, Pimblett, Volkanovski, or Lopez, right? So if I just put you on the spot there, whether you have any action down or not, a lot of people have been asking me for a main event pick this week, and I've abstained. To save a dog's life, you got to check one of those 4 boxes. What box you check?
Volk, because he fights like a dog. In my opinion, I don't want to go president or anything like that. I'm not saying that Chandler isn't one, but with Volk, it almost like, for me, Jay, it doesn't matter the weight class. It doesn't matter the size of the opponent, shorter, taller, whatever. It feels like Alexander Volkanovski finds a way to get an answer. And I'm expecting the same thing here against Diego Lopez.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. Coming off the couple losses, he's had some time off. Volk seems to be in a very good place. I often say when there are 2 fighters matched up, like, God, I hate to see one of these guys lose. In this spot, I'm actually thinking the opposite. I can't wait. Whoever wins, I'm going to be so excited. That doesn't happen right? Like, I couldn't wait. Like, Diego Lopez, I've gotten to know him a little bit, love him. Volk, couldn't love him anymore. But I think this fight's going to go one of 2 ways. I think Diego Lopez is going to starch him quick and do something magical with that energy, or Volk's going to sort of get on a bike a little bit, and it's going to go into the latter rounds, and Diego Lopez, the gas tank does concern me. I still think, we've seen him fatigue a little bit. So for me, though, in terms of picking the main event, it's a layoff for me all day. And I really think in the co-main event, it's sort of the same thing. Either Chandler sort of catches him early, or Pimblett either sort of drags it out or finds a finish. Cody, is that a 3-round fight? I should know that. Yeah, no, 5-round co-main event.
And that's
give me all that.
Now that's the problem for Pimblett and Lopez, is that you have 2 guys who, if they drag you into the championship rounds, that's where they have the advantage. And I'm so fascinated by Michael Chandler because he was sitting around waiting for the mega fight with Conor McGregor. Now, look, Michael Chandler ain't broke. I'm not feeling sorry for him from that end. I feel sorry that the guy got to UFC a little later and then really just pissed around for the last 2 years, waiting to see if this massive fight was going to happen with McGregor. It isn't. So now it's Patty Pimblett. So what version of Michael Chandler are we going to get, Jay? Because this is a guy who, when he first burst on the scene, you knew that he was right in the perfect wheelhouse, I think, of age at the point of his career. And now you've kind of added a year and a half or 2 years to Pimblett, who to me has not really been challenged. Like, Michael Chandler is going to present a complex set of problems for Patty Pimblett, and we're going to find out whether Patty Pimblett is going to be one of the guys that are up here like Diego Lopez, or is he going to be kind of down here still trying to bang his way into championship opportunities? And I maybe I'm being an ageist here, but I like both veterans in both of these fights.
Fair. I mean, Chandler's been in there with everybody, and taking this fight for Michael Chandler. It's a huge opportunity for Patty Pimblett. But Chandler, I think we're going to get what we always get, which is just guns blazing. And I think it's going to be up to Patty to defend himself. I think in a lot of spots, he left that chin open. So I think he could be vulnerable early, but he's a smart fighter. And my brother John has been high on Pimblett from the beginning. We've said a lot about Patty Pimblett. He bided his time before he came. The UFC came calling a long time before he felt as though he was ready. I don't think, granted, I think Jared Gordon did beat him, but he's undefeated in the UFC for a reason. I think every fight that he has had has come at the right time. I think this is no secret, right? I guess for me right now, I would lean both dogs if forced to say it, but I hope Volk doesn't hear me, right? Either way, I'll be happy. But for me, I just have a lot of faith in Patty Pimblett to survive that early storm.
Mm-hmm. And that's really, with Pimblett can survive early and then regroup a little bit, you're in good shape. So if you go with, can't see there, is that Chandler and Volk. So if you go with the favorites, or actually, those are the dogs, Lopez and Chandler, plus 352 on both those guys. What's really interesting is the climb of Diego Lopez and Patty Pimblett, where I feel like with Lopez, I think Lopez has the confidence of fight fans because of what they've seen. And I think this is the fight for Patty Pimblett that can put that stamp of approval in the minds of a lot of fight fans and maybe even some people in the executive offices of the UFC.
That's a great point. I couldn't agree with that point more. I don't even have anything to add. I agree with you completely. I think the jury is out for some people on Patty Pimblett, and this is the absolute perfect opportunity. But I love everything that comes out of the guy's mouth. I've talked to him a few times. I love his energy. You saw when Molly McCann, his longtime teammate, Meatball Molly, retired recently. I love the true emotion. Patty Pimblett is the genuine article. So give me all of it.
And I love the fact that you mentioned Meatball Molly. Like, she was aware. She's like, I'm just not at this level anymore, so let me get the heck out of here before I get my bin. That she might have been being deferential, but you understood sort of the emotion there. And you're right. Those two, thick as thieves. And, you know, when you almost don't think of Molly McCann and Patty Pimblett without thinking of each other in some way. And I'm sure that she'll be there mugging out stuff like that for the camera. I mean, but really the biggest news of UFC 314 is that it's a home game for the Anik boys.
It is a home game, and nice to not have to get in a steel tube, especially for my brother John. But I will say, right, I just did dirty boxing down in Miami. Mm-hmm. For those of us that live in Palm Beach County or even Broward County, a little bit north of Miami-Dade County, driving to Miami ain't a picnic, right? So, but yes, no question about it. I like the home game. It's going to give me an opportunity to watch the Masters, and also too the fan experience. Like, that's what it's all about. That's what it's always been about for my brother John, is about the fans. So it's just exciting. You know, there are a lot of people that could be watching this show that have no idea what the UFC is. They think it's just blood and gore. A lot of old guys like us, that they still sort of have that thought. So when you go to these fan experiences, it's all the junkies and can't get enough.
You know what's crazy is, just on UFC quickly, my father-in-law is 80 years old. And this weekend, it was on regular ESPN. Because trying to explain to an 80-year-old about going on ESPN Plus, it's a nightmare, right? And I'm like, hey, turn on regular ESPN. The fight night card is on. He loves the women fights, loves them, literally turned it on. And I got a text right away of him saying, oh, my favorite, has no idea what it is, just loves seeing people in the octagon beating the hell out of each other. So I can say that between my youngest and me, we have turned my 80-year-old father-in-law into someone who, if it's on in the middle of an afternoon where it's not screwing up his nap, he's sitting there watching, fighting with us, and absolutely loves it.
Well, I love it. And your boys are more into it than you, but they're getting you more into it every day.
Oh, I love it. No, I'm hooked, bro. I'm like,
yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm bad with divisions and names and stuff like that, but I know what I see and I know what I like. And, you know, I used to think that the heavyweights were it. And no, you're missing the experience if you just think it's the big guys going in there and bombing. You're missing the true art form of mixed martial arts across the board.
Well, maybe look at some tickets for Montreal. Oh no, you're busy. You're not going to be in Montreal, right? You're doing.
That's right. I got stuff going on. I'm actually back from Vegas the night before, and then right back into the national sports talk world. Plus, I'm banned in Canada, and I can't talk about that. Just like there's someone that I worked with who is banned in the city of Las Vegas. I'll leave. Well, actually, he's put it out there. Fourier is banned from the city of Las Vegas.
All right,
all because of Warren Moon.
Fascinating. Maybe that's a story for another day. But before you get us out of here, with the 4th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, the New England Patriots select
Will Campbell. I'll just go with the easy. You're with me on that?
As of April 8th, I am.
That's right. People can, you know what? Next week, I'm sure we'll have a completely different feel. But if it just means Travis Hunter's falling to number 4, then we're happy. Don't forget, you can catch Jay this weekend down in Miami around all of these UFC events. The big deal on Saturday. Just look for the guy that looks like John, except he's got a lot of. Now, will your hair be black? You say you're taking care of the sides. Are we going for the Brett Favre or?
No, I mean, we shave. The main reason at this stage, John doesn't have hair. He hates the white. So like, if I see him today, he'll be like, oh, bro, clean up that white. So no, we get a little fade. But as you know, I'm a long hair, don't care type of guy. So you can see the top is fucking flowing.
Oh, it is.
My language. And we're going to let it keep flowing until my wife don't want it flowing anymore.
So the dirty boxing people came to you and said, hey, Jay, maybe tighten it up a little bit. You might be like, nah, I kind of like it. If your wife tells you to tighten it up, it's yes, honey, I'll go right away.
No question about it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine.
Yeah.
That I don't blame you. We're all my wife is 4'11". She's an inch away from being a dwarf. And when I say that, I get in so much trouble. Anyway,
I always say my wife's 5'1". She's got 51% of the vote in my house. That's just how it works. So I got 49% of the vote on most things, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I've kind of settled into that as well, friend. Well, another
we're both bitches. Have a good day.
There you go. That's really it. That's exactly right. We're smart. We know where the bread is buttered. We're not going to screw it up. Fuck you, America. No, that is it. That is it for us. Boy, do we hit a lot of stuff today. Make sure you are following on social media at The Real Gresh, including the YouTube channel you are watching this right now. You can get Jay at Boston Anik, and make sure you're following our guy Cody Merrow as well on Twitter or X at Cody_Merrow is where you can find our guy Code. That is it for us. We will see you next week back here next Tuesday for another edition of Gas.